Greetings, this is July 11th, 9 p.m. A viewer commented today that the fire in the Bombi Pass had eased back a little bit, but there was still some smoke in the area, and winds were a bit of a concern. So we'll take a look at that. But first, let's go to Okanagan Falls, where a fire on the eastern hillside at the south end of Skaha Lake. It's grown in size. It started as one IFR that I could see next to an agricultural area, which didn't seem as much of a concern because I figured they had a bit of a green buffer there, but it has grown and is now showing MODIS and VWIRS detections, and they come quite close to infrastructure areas near Okanagan Falls, and they also go up the mountainside. So these indications do not show where fire is. They show where heat was detected. So they don't necessarily signify there's fire in that entire square. They just mean that there was heat detected somewhere within that square. They can also be off location by as much as a kilometer, and they can be obscured by smoke and clouds. So what we're seeing is a representation of the general area where fire may be located. On this image, all four satellite systems are selected, and then we'll roll on to where the two main systems that picked up the most recent data. The large orange squares are the MODIS. They can actually be off a fair distance, up to a kilometer, and the smaller red squares are the VWIRS, and they seem to be moving up the hillside. It's very important to get the eyes and ears on the ground, so you want to go to the links below to the BC Wildfire website and check out what their recommendations are for this fire. I've heard that there may be an evacuation alert already in effect. There was another detection that was on the hill between Oliver and Costin Karamias. It's south of a minor road that stretches between those two, and it looks like it's pretty much on the peak. It looks like it's in a block of fairly thick vegetation, a lot of brush, and there appears to be kind of alpine grasslands to the western side on the left side of the screen. And that's that hill that you can see when you're in Karamias looking east. If we jump over to Windy, winds in the area are coming from the northwest at 2 kilometers an hour. That's not very significant. They're probably just kind of milling around and meandering. In the forecast, there can be those gusts in the afternoon, every afternoon, and Wednesday, fairly significant gusts coming from the west primarily, but we are looking at more northerly winds, so that probably has crews concerned about the infrastructure to the south of the fire line and near Okanagan Falls. So again, check with BC Wildfire and see what their plans are for access in that area. We're going to move east to an area 22 kilometers southeast of Castlegar. This is called the Bombi Pass, and it was brought up by a viewer, and we're going to look at the infrared that kind of evolved in detection over the day. We can see there's some orange MODIS that are on primarily the south of Highway 3, the Crow's Nest, and there are some spots on the north side of the Crow's Nest, and they're stretching a bit eastward of the Beaver Vale Creek area. Most of those MODIS are in large forested blocks. There is a fairly significant cluster of VWIRS, and we can see it on the south side of Highway 3. In the reports from BC Wildfire, a lot of the fuel on the ground is burning, and it's not in the crowns or the treetops, so it is probably quite smoky in the bush there, and the air is moving a little bit slow right now, so a difficult place to navigate. We're not seeing a lot of obscured vision on the road. It looks actually reasonably clear, and when we look in the other direction earlier today, there's a haze out there, but the road seems okay. But do check with DriveBC, that's the screens we're looking at, and BC Wildfire to find out if there are any road closures. This is the information panel for that fire on the BC Wildfire map, and they're calling it a moderately vigorous surface fire that's burning up fuel on the forest floor. So if winds pick up, that can become more dangerous. It is rated as out of control, and it's about 35 hectares. Winds are coming from The west primarily, it's varying, coming from the northwest sometimes, 7 kilometers an hour. And if we look to the forecast, a lot of gusts pretty much all the time, fairly steady breeze going through those mountain areas. There is some variation, and again on Wednesday, that seems to be a theme throughout the whole southern portion of the province. Wednesday afternoon, big gusts potentially coming. We're looking at another fire. This is west of Kootenay Lake, south of Nelson. It's been going for a little while. It seems to be having a bit of creep to the west, and it's up in the high mountains, and it seems to be concentrated primarily in a gully there heading to the peak. There's a couple more clusters of hot spots. These are showing up northwest of Nelson, and then a little bit further north. And again, depending on those wind directions, those changes, and where those gusts are coming from, just be aware of that in case they shift to the north. There was another spot that I noticed north of Grand Forks. There's a few spots popping up as that lightning kind of went through the center of the province, so just be aware. Lightning can smolder for a few days and then start showing up when the conditions dry out and winds pick up. So be aware, watch the wind, and if you can, go to the lightningmonitor.org. That's a link below, and if you can, track lightning in your area. We're looking at an image of the infrared just to the north of the road to Sun Peaks. This is north of Kamloops. We're on the Heffley-Lewis Creek Road in a place called Whitecroft, and we can see a large cluster of MODIS and VWIRS moving up the western hillside, and there's two smaller clusters of MODIS infrared moving up the eastern mountainside across the valley towards Sun Peaks. Now, I'm not seeing a lot of change in the size of the perimeter of these infrared, and I'm seeing about the same amount of encroachment towards the road from the north on the east side of Whitecroft. It appears fairly stationary, but we'll have to check the VWIRS when it comes out. We're going to move over to the Sparks Lake fire. This is westward on the other side of Kamloops Lake. I'm seeing a lot more concentrated clusters of infrared still remaining within the perimeter, coming up to Deadman Vidette Road and staying to the western side of Red Lake. There's wildfire crews in the area. They may be doing ignitions to control the fuel and bring that fire down. Winds are light. They're coming from the north, directly west of the fire zone, and then they're coming from the northwest and pushing those winds eastward a bit at 6 kilometers an hour on the other side of the fire perimeter. So depending on where you are, you might be getting smoke. Here we're looking at Cache Creek on DriveBC. This is west of the fire, looking east, and it looks fairly clear. Then if we move to the east side and look westerly, we're looking at a lot of haze, and roadways are obscured. And remember, in the forecast, gusts are going to increase in the afternoon. They can come from a lot of different directions. We're showing coming from the north, then the next day from the south, then from the north. They ease a bit in the early morning, but then on Wednesday afternoon, there is the potential for wind gusts. They could go as high as 48, 50 kilometers an hour. So please be aware out there. There is a potential for more of these spot fires from lightning that went through. Watch for plumes, and if you see fire, call star 5555 on your cell phone. I believe it's 1-800-663-5555 on your telephone. For a lot of areas, it's turning back into a very pleasant summer. It is breezy out there, changing wind patterns, puffy clouds, blue sky in many areas. It's awesome to be out there in the great outdoors. But it is wildfire season, so please let people know where you're going and have a plan, know what your access routes are going to be, and keep your nose to the breeze. Thank you very much for watching.